Hello and welcome to Movies That Move Me. I'm your host, Elijah Winfrey. I'm also an independent filmmaker and I love movies, obviously. I make movies, I watch movies, I love movies. But this show is all about the movies that made me want to be a filmmaker and the movies that continue to inspire me to, really hone in on my craft and hopefully get better with everything I make. Today, we're going back in time here to 1986. This was one of two movies that was huge that year. The other movie I've already covered on this show. Go back and check that out. Top Gun was the movie that I've already covered from 1986, which was a huge blockbuster. But the other movie that year that was really, really big was Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, that's right. Crocodile Dundee. Of course, a lot of people will remember Paul Hogan played Crocodile Dundee, Mike Dundee in the film. But this movie came out in 1986. And let me just hop right into what I love about it, okay? So this movie obviously stars a reporter who's working in New York City who goes to Australia to do a story about Mike Dundee, Crocodile Dundee. She ends up falling in love with him, and she is so captivated by him and his story that when she goes back to New York City, she brings Mike Dundee with her. And right there is an example of what I love about this film. As somebody who writes my own scripts, I write and direct. Some people just direct and that's cool, but I write and direct. I love the fact that they took this fish out of water story and went both ways with it. So often when you have a fish out of water situation, it's one perspective, like for example, my cousin Vinny, you have the three, people who are coming from the New York City area. And obviously don't forget about Marissa Tomei. So four people coming from the New York City area down to Alabama. Okay. And that's their culture shock, is because New York City and Alabama are two completely different places. But it's still only one side of the thing because you don't have the Alabama folks going to New York City. On this one, you get both, okay? You get the New York City shot going to Australia, and you get the Australian shot going to New York City. And that, to me, makes this movie. That's what's so cool about this movie for me as a writer-director. Now, obviously, I love the fact that, you've got comedy in it as well. And, there's a whole lot of fun between the characters and the way they talk to each other. I'm also a gigantic Australia fan. It's one of the places I long to go to in my life because I grew up in the 90s. One of my childhood heroes was Steve Irwin. So I want to go out and see the Australian Zoo. I want to go see Heath Ledger's theater over there in Perth because he was my, favorite actor. So in general, if Australia's involved in a movie, I'm in. Okay, I'm in. But this movie won me over even more so, like I said, with that back and forth on the fish out of water part, because you get both sides of the coin, but also all the fun that they have in the movie with the comedy and the love story too. I felt the love story to be very believable, regarding Mike Dundee and the actress in this film. And I want to make sure that I get her name right. I believe it's Linda Kozlowski, I believe is how you say it. I may have messed that up and I apologize if I did. But she was fantastic in this film as well, playing opposite of Paul Hogan. But again, Crocodile Dundee, it's one of those movies that I had seen bits and pieces of over the years, but I had never really committed time to sitting down and watching it as a whole until about, I want to say, a year and a half ago. And then when I did, I loved it. I love this movie. Now, the sequel, I could take or leave the sequel. And I believe they made a third one, and I don't remember the third one at all. But the first one, like I said, it was a really, really solid movie. And, obviously it was one of the biggest of 1986, along with Top Gun. Those two movies kind of went neck to neck, so to speak, whenever they came out. And, obviously y'all know, if you followed this show, I love Top Gun. So that must have been a crazy time. I don't know if anybody else does this, but I do it a lot, where when I'm trying to pick what movies I'm going to watch at night, I will sometimes look up the release date of a movie, and then I will see what else came out on that same date. So for example, Crocodile Dundee came out in the United States September 26th of 1986. So I would go and look up what other movies came out that same weekend. And then even if those movies are completely different from each other, I'll watch them as a double feature to give myself the experience of what it might have been like to be a moviegoer on that weekend. You know, what choices did they have when they were standing outside of the theater looking at all the posters, trying to figure out what movie they were going to go watch? So I'm weird like that, but it's one of the things I do to try to figure out what movie I'm going to watch. But Crocodile Dundee, definitely a movie that moved me from a writer's perspective. Like I said, having that storyline that goes both ways, not just one way. I thought that was really, really cool that they did that. And again, I'm a sucker for all things Australia. So, that to me, you already won me over before I even saw the story. So, Crocodile Dundee, it's a movie that moved me. Do you feel the same about it as I do? Or maybe have you never thought about it like that before? Let me know in the comments below. Hey, until we talk again next time, be good to yourself, be good to others in that order. I'll see you soon.